The city of Johannesburg has announced its 2020-2021 budget, dubbed the Government of Local Unity budget at just over 68 billion rand. Johannesburg residents whose pockets have been hit hard by COVID-19 can now look forward to lower water and electricity tariffs. The city says the budget strikes a balance between the needs of residents and investment in capital projects like water infrastructure, maintenance and building new bridges, housing and roads. For more on the story, we're joined now by member of the Mayoral Committee for Finance, Councillor Jolidee Matongo. Councillor, thank you for your time this morning on the AM report. I'm looking at the sentence around the Government of Local Unity budget, and I'm just thinking of all the delays in actually tabling this budget. Do you reckon that there is unity in this government in the province?
Well, yesterday was a typical demonstration of the fact that in Johannesburg, we've got a government of local unity. In addition to this government of local unity, we've got a very sober opposition in the form of the DA, the Freedom Front Plus, including the ACDP, who put aside their political ideologies and stances and chose to be on the side of the residents of Johannesburg to approve a budget that addresses the needs of the people of Johannesburg across the board.
So let's get straight into, the positive sides of the story. As we've been saying, many residents really battling financially in the wake of COVID-19. There is now some relief for people living here.
Well, there is a relief. We have already were putting before the council meeting at the end of July a relief program that looks at over 400 million rand that we want to put back in the pockets of the property owners in our city. As we speak, over 110 million rand has not been charged in interest charges for people who have been owing the city since the start of the lockdown. So already 110 million is already back in the pockets of the residents in the form of interest charges that we were supposed to charge, and we have not charged those. But in addition to that, 400 million will then be put back in the pockets of the property owners after ratification by council at the end of July.
So I'm looking at social spending being cut here. Is that the case in the 68 billion rand budget? Does it see a cut in social spending?
Well, there are no cuts in social spending. Social spending continues. We are building clinics. We are building multi-purpose community centers. We are rolling out a number of massive high-impact projects in areas that are dispersed in our city, Orange Farm, Ivory Park, and other areas. We are doing a lot of sewer and stormwater upgrades. The tarring of roads, the war on potholes continues.
And the COVID-19 budget, of course, we're looking at all of our big developing stories through the lens of the pandemic. Does the 68 billion rand budget also include the COVID-19 part of that budget?
It does respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. Because of the pandemic, a lot of people are out of jobs. They are food insecure. We are putting in the budget in excess of 175 million rand to provide 500,000 food parcels to the food insecure in our city. We're building about 7 clinics in the new budget. So it does respond to the pandemic.
I'm looking at the, we know that we've lost revenue across all sectors in the country, and government is no different. The city losing more than 3 billion rand in revenue because of the COVID-19 pandemic. This budget, just in light of those kinds of losses, this budget still making provision for a 6% increase, a more than 6% a salary increase. What do you make of that?
Well, the salary increases of employees of municipalities are determined at a national level. It's not determined by the city of Johannesburg. It's a negotiation between the unions and SALGA, the employer representative. So what we are doing as a municipality is to be responsible to budget for it in case the unions and SALGA agree on an increase. If the unions and SALGA agree that there is no salary increase, we then take to council an adjustment budget, redirect the money to service delivery pressure points.
If we take a look at what the Auditor General had to say, I think it was at the end of June, the city of Johannesburg, the metro, incurring irregular expenditure for the period that the AG was looking into of 816 million rand. So as a member of the Mayoral Committee for Finance, what are some of the big steps that we're taking not only to mitigate that kind of irregular expenditure, but to find out where the money went and, if possible, to get it back?
Well, we have set up a team in the office of the Group Chief Financial Officer to work on a daily basis to chase departments and entities of the municipality in relation to the audit outcomes from the Auditor General. We have put probity processes along all tenders that the city issues, so that before a tender is issued, we are able to ascertain for ourselves that all the prescripts of law have been followed to the T. We are also setting up a compliance team that will look at the awards that are provided by the city to make sure that they are done according to the law. So we are also beefing up our group forensic investigation unit in the city, headed by General Sibia. We are also looking at the Office of the Ombudsman to help us ensure that the complaints of the residents as it relates to service delivery are attended to.
So those are future steps to be taken as it relates to irregular expenditure. Those are things to mitigate it in the future. But what about that 800 million rand in the previous budget?
Well, as I've said, there's already a team in the office of the Group Chief Financial Officer that is looking at the audit outcomes, chasing all departments and entities, looking for answers. Where we find that the money can be recovered, people can be charged, that will be done. But as it relates to the other processes, compliance team headed by our group legal, those things are already in place. Because at the start of the COVID pandemic, we thought it would be prudent for us to tighten the processes so that we don't find ourselves in commissions of inquiry about spending money on COVID, whereas the money went elsewhere.
All right, Jolidee Matongo, member of the Mayoral Committee for Finance, thanks very much for your time here on the AM Report. That's as the City of Johannesburg announced its 2020-2021 budget.